Welcome to Carter's Retro Reviews. I'm Carter.
And I'm Vãmpyre Mike from SegaCDUniverse.com. Me and my friend Carter are gonna double team this bitch. As long as we have a gentleman's agreement that I get the vagina first.
I am so sorry, guys. I had no idea that he was going to bring an actual gun. When he said he was bringing his gun, I thought it was a metaphor for his peen. You know what? It doesn't matter. You know what? It sounded less gay at the time. But anyway, look, we're doing a review this time on a game for the Sega Saturn called Three Dirty Dwarves. So here it is.
The story goes something like this. 4 kids from Mensa or something are stolen by an evil corporation to create weapons of mass destruction. They instead design a board game starring 3 dirty dwarves, which then, in turn, comes alive, and they jump through a portal and travel through the Bronx, New York, to fight their way out. They also bring other monsters with them who follow them through. They have to defeat these monsters and finally rescue their creators. This game was created by Segasoft, the same people that created Scud the Disposable Assassin, which is a great side-scrolling shooter on the Sega Saturn. They also created a game I played as a kid called Flesh Feast, which was on the PC, and a multiplayer gaming network on the PC from years and years ago that's now defunct, called Heat.net. It was kind of like the poor man's version of GameSpy. The presentation's pretty nice. The menus are kind of standard, with difficulty adjustments and a few minor features you can change. But overall, it looks pretty good. The manual displays a bunch of biographies on these fictional characters in this world. My favorite part was the facts, quote-unquote, on the Bronx, which just happens to be where I'm actually from originally, which makes this game even funnier for me. They don't make manuals like they used to, huh? It sort of reminds me of the Willy Beamish game on the Sega CD. If you've read through that manual, it contains fake advertisements, backstories, and a beautiful picture of this fake universe. Damn, I miss the old days.
The presentation has this thick, gluggy, chuggy look to it. In one way, I think it's good because it's consistent from the very start to the menus to the in-game presentation. It has this particular style to it for better or for worse. But this also ties in with the graphics, which brings me to... Graphics is something Mike and I are going to disagree with here. I think the graphics are a bit rough to look at. When you look at this gameplay, you're not seeing what I see. You're seeing a nicely encoded video which has the best settings to the point where I've been asked if I captured the actual Saturn or an emulator. I wouldn't be doing this if it was from an emulator. It's easy to say, oh, but that's just the style. But the graphics look gimpy, or rather, just blocky and unappealing. Not bad, because I've seen bad, and it's certainly not boring either. There's enough to excite visually, especially when I've seen companies unfamiliar with the Saturn trying to do 3D on it. I'm sorry for the lack of adjectives, but the graphics look chunky. The upside is the background graphics remind me of Nickelodeon cartoons from the 90s.
Graphics are excellent and look to be hand-drawn. The whole overall feel of the game looks like something ripped straight out of a Saturday morning cartoon. The character design, the backgrounds, and the animation is really nice, and it stuck with me as a child as I played it in a demo unit. Everything is bright and interesting overall, and it has an amusing intro with some humor wrapped throughout the game. The sound could be a little frantic, but pretty good for techno-type music, which usually isn't my bag. It's not something I would be humming along to after I was done playing with the game, but nothing to hurt my ears either. Decent overall.
Sounds pretty good. Nothing says the 90s more than the soundtrack from this game. The sound effects are interesting because they're accurate, sure, but sometimes they're a little over the top, and I get that it's in line with the type of humor of the game, but it really got on my nerves after a while. Especially when you get stuck on a level. More to the point, the sound effects used on the loading screen, while being unique, are also annoying. The first time round you laugh a little, you think it's cool. But by the 5th time through, it's overstayed its welcome like an egg fart in an elevator.
The gameplay is where things get interesting. Not only do you have 3 characters to control, you can switch them all on the fly, which is good because when one gets knocked out by being hit, you have to switch to another to wake them up by going over and smacking them in the fucking mouth. Each character has a different weapon. One has a bowling ball, one has a baseball with a bat, and my favorite, if you couldn't tell, was the shotgun. You also build up a meter of what looks like these funny skulls in which you can unleash special moves and beat the shit out of your opponents in different degrees depending on how large your meter is at the time. The game can be pretty difficult, but boy is it fun, especially with the multiplayer mode. Do you have a Saturn multitap? Because 3 players can fuck shit up in unison. Word is bond, bitch. The game plays like a side-scrolling beat-em-up. A difficult one, but still a side-scrolling beat-em-up. Grab some friends, grab some beer, or in my case a coffee, and let's beat the shit out of some people.
Gameplay is my main gripe with this game. If you thought I was being picky and a bit of a dick up until now, cover your ears because it gets worse. As Mike said, you control 3 characters, but it'd be nice if they all had their place. They do in the sense that there's puzzles and each one of them would be better suited to a puzzle, but outside of these puzzles I found the only character I wanted to be for the regular enemies was the guy with the shotgun. Baseball guy's hits are too weak, bowling ball dude's too slow to react. Shotgun guy also takes a while to reload, but that can be forgiven. Also notice, if you listen carefully, where that shotgun sound is stolen from. Doom anyone? All 3 characters are a little slow to react, and I get they're designed that way, but it's not how I like to play. It's trying the beat-em-up, platforming, puzzle kind of game together, and in one way, you could say it is a successful merge. But to me, it feels like they're trying to cover themselves too thin without doing any of these properly. One thing I didn't like is how you don't really have lives, but what I did like is how you get 3 attempts, and when the character you're controlling gets hit, it moves to the next one in your group until all 3 are down. But you can hit them and they get back up again. If only real life was like that. Oh, you're unconscious? Let me hit you back into reality.
Having yet to finish the game due to its difficulty, I would definitely recommend it. My friend and I always get a small chuckle out of the game's humor, but also really enjoy the teamwork aspect in the game as well. Let's put it this way. When I first tried this game in a demo unit as a child, it stuck with me. I purchased a Saturn way after its demise, and this was one of the first titles I needed to buy on the Sega Saturn. Years later, I had now sold my Saturn and all my games, and now have repurchased one more recently. Guess what one of the first games I wanted to rebuy was? It's really a hidden gem in this 2D powerhouse's library. I would most definitely recommend it.
I haven't finished the game either, but from what I've read from others with more time and determination, this is a relatively short game. That is, of course, when you do a speed run and you know what you're doing. There's not many levels and you can finish it in about 4 to 5 hours. For the rest of the time, it'll be filled with doing mostly the same level again and again to get it right. However, the game makes good use of the multi-tap, and we cannot forget the multiplayer, as I typically do, as I play most of my games as a single player. And in that sense, you'll find plenty of replay value in the multiplayer, especially when this is one of the very few games on the system that supports 3 concurrent players on screen. But single player, not so much. Once you're done, you're done. I had my own clearly formed opinions on it before listening to what Mike had to say, but now that I've heard what he has to say, I kind of feel like you're dealing with 2 very different people here. One who has very fond memories of it growing up and playing it with friends, and the other is a grumpy old man who plays with himself. I mean, plays games by himself. Video game. This game. Would I recommend this game? There is one factor which has not been spoken about, which needs to be taken into consideration. And that is, this game is fucking ridiculously expensive. Japanese copy not so much, but a PAL copy will send you into at least £50, while the US copy will cost you about $40 US. These are as close to original prices as you can get 15 years later. And at these asking prices, the game's not worth it. Go look elsewhere. If you can get a disc only or even just a copy cheaply, then absolutely get this game. Even if you buy it for no other reason than the multiplayer. Kids do it all the time now for COD and other disastrous shit, so this wouldn't be a far stretch. Single player is mostly an average experience with a few good ideas that don't particularly play out that well. As always, thank you very much for watching. Click on the TV to see the last review, and click on the name underneath the television if you'd like to subscribe.